So I was about 27 years old or so. I was really excited. I was having my first child and I was on my way to the doctor and with my wife at that time. And we were excited because we were going to find out the sex of our baby. I had already decided that the baby's name was going to be Zeke, and I thought it was going to be a boy. And I started looking up that word, and that word means God will strengthen. And so I just thought, hey, it's going to be cool. We'll call him Zeke. And by the way, I named him after one of my best friends growing up. And so it was also obviously a Bible name. But so we get in there, we find out the sex of the baby, and then I can tell right away when the lady's measuring hearts and all this stuff, feet and all the arms and everything. I can tell right away that she's having a problem measuring the heart. And so my wife at the time doesn't realize what's going on, but I realized right away. And I started getting worried. Long story short, after about 45 minutes of them looking, they brought in somebody else to look, try to look through the sonogram thing or whatever it's called. And then they said, hey, I need to talk to one of the doctors. And then they said, so they took 15 minutes outside or whatever. And then the lady came back. She said, hey, one of the doctors going to come talk to you. And I said, well, just tell me what's going on. And she said, well, I don't know exactly, but what I can tell you is I'll never forget this. She said, there is something very seriously wrong with your son's heart. Words I'll never forget. Never forget that moment. And so she left. My wife starts crying. Here I am, a dad trying to pull us all together, right? Trying to keep her calm, trying to think through all the logical things, what's going to happen. I'm always trying to think a step or two ahead. So here comes this guy and this doctor, and he says, hey, your son has a very serious heart disease. We need to take him to like a cardiologist to really diagnose him. But he says, I think he has a disease called hypoplastic left heart syndrome, which is basically you're born with one pumping chamber. You're supposed to have two. So you're born with, so kind of a layman's term way that people say it is the kid is born with half of a heart. And it's just something that happens early on when the heart's developing. You could have a flaw, and it's super rare. It's like, 0.01% or something. I think it's even smaller than that. Like some ridiculously small percentage of the population gets it, but yet that's very small numbers, thousands and thousands of kids. And so we immediately out of nowhere, and you have to understand, I was successful in business, successful in life, successful as a pastor, successful as all these things. Like here I am in this moment, and I'm just wondering, why God? Why me? Why us? How could this happen? Right? Like, how could you live your life so faithfully and then this go on? And it's something that I would never find out until, and I don't know if I fully understand now, but what I want to tell you, long story short, they talked to us. They actually split us up. They brought me into another room. They kept her in the same room. I didn't realize they were splitting us up, but they split us up. Somebody talked to Lisa, and someone talked to me, and they both were trying to tell us that abortion was the right thing. My ex, being like much stronger in that at that time than me, she was like, no way in hell. And I was like more pragmatic about it, and so I was just like, hey, I don't believe in abortion, but I do think that technology like abortion technology could exist for some very specific situations. Maybe somebody's at risk or whatever, and it's a decision that parents should make together, not the state, not anyone else. And so even though I thought I would never do it, I thought that, hey, this is one of those super rare 0.01% or less chances, and I happen to be that guy. And so it was incredible. I was in Orange County, California. I just remember like this beautiful day outside, everybody going about their day, and here I am like having to make this decision. And so the guy talked to me for quite a while. I asked a ton of questions like I always do, and I will never ever ever forget the moment when he looks me in the eye and he says, James, I'm telling you, you want to abort your son. He goes, you're young. You guys have your whole life ahead of you. Your wife is like 23 or something like that, and 24. I don't know. And he was just like, dude, you don't want to do this. He goes, dude, you are talking a life that is a living hell for a lot of people. He goes, I read a lot about this kind of stuff, and you may not morally believe that this is the right thing to do, but you can, I mean, he literally said this, but you can, and by the way, he wasn't trying to be a jerk about it. He was trying to tell me facts to make what he thought was a best decision. That, you know, he's like, dude, you're going to go through a ton of heartbreak with this child. And he goes, James, the child's going to die. He goes, all of these children die. And he goes, you're going to bury your son one day, man. You don't want to do that. He goes, no dad should ever do that. He goes, I'm telling you, dude, you don't want to bury your son one day. And dude, I just sat down and just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to think. I didn't know, you know what I mean? My whole like belief system just flashed before my eyes, you know, and I just I didn't know. I didn't know what to think. I certainly wasn't pro abortion at that moment, but it made me, I mean, I think about I'm the guy who paid all the bills, did everything practical. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like I had to think about all the practicalities, and I had to, and so he told me, he's like, you know, a huge percentage of people, of marriages who lose a child, more than 50%, some say 60, 70%. I mean, I've seen stats, I don't know if they're all the stats are the same, but I've seen stats are like 74% of parents who they go through a death in a child, especially when they're young, they get a divorce, like 74%. You know, I'm just thinking like, dude, okay, do I want to go through all this? Is this going to wreck my family? You know, and he told me, he said, you know, dealing with the pain and the morale, he literally said the morality of it now is a short price to pay compared to the other, you know, the morality of losing your family, or you know, not having that connection with your spouse. So long story short here, I want to tell you, my son died, um, and it was a crazy 7 years. It was amazing. It was definitely the most difficult thing I've ever been through, and it was so difficult. I didn't know how I was going to live. And I remember so many times, I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but I literally remember so many times thinking, dude, I'm just going to grab my son and jump out of this effing window. Or like, you know, 16 stories up in Children's Hospital. Dude, once you're there for 20, 30 days and you're there, because I was there every single night with him, every day, every night. I was there like a couple hundred days. I forget the exact number. I'd have to go look it back up, but it was something like 230 or something days total of his life. He was in the hospital and I was always there every day with him. You know, when he was a newborn, um, you know, he was like, you know, mom was doing the breast milk and stuff. And then you know, but I was the one in the hospital in the NICU feeding him breast milk, you know, through the bottles. And so like I just was there for him as his best friend, and it was incredibly difficult that he died. I honestly didn't know how I was going to go forward. I just didn't know. Long story short, again, 2 years after he died, my wife filed divorce on us. And I was a part of starting the argument for sure, but it was more of an argument, which went into accusations, which went into blah blah blah. And next thing you know, she files divorce on me from the church, by the way, which is a bunch of bull crap, but whatever. Got to move on, right? So my whole thing of saying this is, I have had a couple people ask me recently, would you do it all over again? You know, everything that dude said happened, everything, like, and I believed then, and I believe now, that children are an inheritance from God. Okay. And they're not a burden. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible that they're a burden, that they're a curse. And so everyone would speak over Zeke's life. Dude, I'm so sorry, man. Your son, dude, I'm so sorry you're going through this. I'm so sorry. But they were almost saying it like he was a burden to me. So his entire life in front of him, I always corrected them and said, he is not a burden. He's a blessing. I'm blessed to be here with him. And and they would walk out of the room and I would get him up close and whisper in his ear when he was, incapacitated or barely alive or whatever. Um, I would just whisper, like, he went through 3 open heart surgeries, was on the heart transplant list. Like, he died on my kitchen table and I revived him through CPR. But, I would say all that to say, um, I can see why the Bible says that children are a blessing. And if you look self-centered, if you look at the world about you, then yeah, abortion makes sense, right? Like, you know, losing your marriage, makes sense. If you look at it all about you. But the way I look at it, you know, I mean, people have wondered, like, I'm just going to be straightforward here on this. Hopefully, you guys are okay with me just being real. I've had a tremendous amount of blessing in my life. Everywhere I go, it seems like things work for me. Recently, losing the divorce was like the worst of the worst because it was something that meant a lot to me, the most to me, probably. And, but even through all that, I'll say that the inheritance that I received through being Zeke's dad, you can't get that in a prayer and fasting and going to church and tithing and doing good deeds and feeding the poor. You can't. I'm just telling you. And yes, it might be difficult. Yes, there's going to be tears. Yeah, you're going to want to kill yourself. Yeah, you're not going to know how you're going to make the next moment, let alone the next day. I mean, dude, I can't tell you how many times I was talking to friends like, dude, I'm breaking Zeke out of here tonight. I'm breaking him out of here. Like, seriously, like, I mean, because you feel like you're in a prison cell, like you're in this little, 20 by 20 or 40 by 30 by 30 or whatever it is. And you can't really you feel like you can't get in or out. And I don't know how Zeke made it because he couldn't leave. At least I could go out and go to lunch or go to the bathroom or something. But I would just whisper in Zeke's ear all the time, like, dude, we're going to be out soon, bro. I'm with you, man. I just want to let you know. I just want you to, and I used to tell him all the time, dude, just think in your head. I know you can't move. I know you can't, like, he had a brain injury because when I revived him, he was like 10 minutes dead, essentially dead. And I revived him. And then so he had no oxygen in his brain. Then he went through the last 2 years recovering from a brain injury, which was another miracle. And then he started walking after all that. And he was like eating, feeding himself. And it was crazy. He started to say words. And but I would tell him all the time, dude, don't worry about all this stuff. Just play, man. Just have fun. Just be a kid and just think in your mind. This is why God gave you your mind, is just think, like, and I think the hardest thing about all this, I didn't mean to cry in this video at all, was I had to block out my feelings so much to deal with Zeke and everything he went through and the doctors and the pain of it all. And I don't know if this is true or not. I don't know if I was coherent enough or self-aware enough to know this, but I felt so abandoned by people, because by the closest people in my life, because I was just like, there was just no one there. And I was the only one getting up at 4 a.m, walking by myself to the hospital, like from the day he was born, you know what I'm saying? And and then and that come to think about it, well, dude, that's why I'm his dad. You know what I'm saying? But it was funny because I was the only dad of literally a year's worth of nights. In fact, it wasn't 230 days, it was 330 days, because I distinctly remember the doctors telling, like the cardiologist telling me, dude, you're basically like a professional nurse in here. Like, you've not even our nurses in a year will go through 300 nights here, like 320 20-hour shifts or so. They do 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they go home, you don't. Just the amount of, like, just having to block out all emotions, like, it was on a whole nother level. And I'm still to this day trying to figure out, like, what it all did to me. And the other thing I want to tell parents out there about this is, like, I did things and I would get frustrated at Zeke at times, especially when he was fine. He was running around like a normal boy. Well, I would get frustrated and discipline him for things that I didn't know were related to his heart condition. And let me tell you, man, as a father, when you realize that, like, when my son's brain was going out, I don't know if I've ever shared this, but like my son's brain was going out. I was the only person. There wasn't a doctor, there wasn't a nurse. I was the only person on this earth who witnessed every second of that, of his brain literally going out, from being able to talk, to mumble, to laugh, to go, and then nothing. So he could stand, then he couldn't stand, then he couldn't hold his fork, then he couldn't move his arms, and then he was just like, I remember him saying one time to me, I was like, Zeke, what is going on with you, man? And he goes, Daddy, I don't know. He's like 5-year old, he's like, Daddy, I don't know. He's like, I can't move my arms and I can't really control my legs, Daddy. And that does a toll on you, when you realize later, after he died, sometimes I would realize certain things that, like, oh man, I was a little too hard on him. I didn't realize what he was going through, you know. And so I say all that in this video to say, would I do this over again? And I have to be honest. There's no doubt I would do it all over again. And I'm reminded of this time when Jesus was talking to Peter, and he says that he's going to Jerusalem and he's gonna die, essentially, is what he says. And Peter's like, whatever, bro, I'm your boy. Like, I will never let you die. He's basically like, dude, I will be there for it. I will never let anyone kill you or touch you. And Jesus says, get behind me, Satan, for you are not mindful of the things of God. And I feel like that's where we're at. We're Christians, we defend the faith, we're willing to raise our hands, go to church, tithe, all this stuff. But we don't think, we don't make godly decisions all the time. It's possible to be a Christian and not actually have a renewed mind, not actually be thinking. I mean, dude, this guy was following Jesus everywhere. Okay. Like, what I'm saying? And I think that it's just easy for Christians to get into that. And so to lose perspective that of the blessing and the inheritance. And I don't know where my life's going to go from here. I don't know who I'm going to remarry or how that's all going to go down. But this is one thing I feel confident about. It's going to be great. And things are going to get great. And, the divorce is really tough, really caused me to restructure a lot. And I certainly, it takes two to tango. So, I mean, like, I certainly did my parts of making the disagreement bad. But man, I wish I had seen these things now, right, before I brought up, hey, maybe this isn't going to work out with her, right? Because once I brought that up, it was like all hell broke loose. And so, but I also didn't know what I know now. I just want to say to all the parents out there, like, or anybody who considers abortion, don't use it as birth control. Don't use it as all these things. And if you're in a horrible situation and, blah, 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 like, I mean, when you look at the stats of it and all, it's just sad all the way around. I'm not even going to go through it on this. It's incredibly sad, somehow, it all works out. In the hard of life, the hard stuff, is what makes it worth it. It puts the character in you, you know. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the next part of my life is understanding that part and moving forward. So anyway, want to do a real one here. I know abortion is a big topic right now, and I wanted to be a part of the conversation. So let me know what you guys think. See you on the next video.